bill of materials, routings, production version. We have also create purchasing info record. So right now we can start the process for procurement of raw materials and with forecast and MRP data. So create plain independent requirement. This process steps show you how to create plain independent requirement. Plain independent requirement are used to perform demand management function. A plain independent requirement contains one plain quantity and one date, or a number of plain independent requirements schedule lines such as one plain quantity split according to date. So access the app, open, maintain plain independent requirement, maintain PIRs. So like this, maintain PIRs. The maintain PIRs screen display. Check default setting. Check the user icon and select app settings. In the MRP settings dialog box, choose area of responsibility. On my area of responsibility screen, check if the below entry is assigned your plant and your MRP controller. Choose area of responsibility statute. If the statute of the above entry is not assigned, and choose R or R statute to unassign the rest of the other entry and then choose back. Okay, so like this, like this, like this. So assign, unassign. From there, unassign, assign. Okay, back. Select material item. On the maintain PIRs screen, make the following entries and choose go. Your plant, your period indicator, weekly or monthly, the activation, select all option, and your finished product. My plant, 10, all the option. Okay. We keep in monthly and I put my material and I click on go. The search material item display. So is my plant okay? Is if you don't see anything. That is the case. I check, but I don't think I will see something. Okay, because I previously defined something. So select the material item and choose edit in the upper right corner of the screen. Edit. On the screen, enter quantity per period. For example, 100 for all 12 periods. Make sure the version is active. Version active, yes. And don't forget to save your draft on the bottom right corner of the screen. Okay. So I define, for example, 100, 100, 100, or I can define 10, 10. So 10, 11, sure, 12, 13, 15, 15, 16, 15, 18, 19, 20. Most important, version active, yes, and save. I can do it in mass also, by import or Excel file. So right now, material requirement planning at plant level. This process steps show you how to use MRP, material requirement planning, to tailor all available capacities and receipt on time to suit requirement quantities. As a result, single item multi-level requirement planning is performed for plant 1010. So again, the make to stock finished product goods are planned at plant level. There is no requirement for the component in plant 1010. Okay, So for that, access the app, open, schedule, MRP, run. Schedule, MRP, run. The application job screen display. Create new job. Choose create. On the new job screen, make the following entries. Template selection section, job template, material requirement planning, the job template, and job name, MRP for finished product. That is only for a demonstration. So in our case, you put MRP for plan 1010, F01, etc. So step 2. Step 2, scheduling option section. Start immediately and choose define recurrent pattern and selection on the scheduling information screen. Start immediately, recurrent pattern, schedule run. But you can see in the different option, start immediately, different recurrent pattern, start immediately. You can choose daily, minute, hourly, weekly, etc. So for for your system, I think you can choose daily, for example. That I choose a single one. You can define also the calendar. And I click on OK. Start immediately. Single one. Step 3. Step 3 is parameters. In parameters, your plant, your material, change bone component select, and planning model 1. So my plant, then my materials, okay, change bone components, yes. And determination of basic date for plain order, yes. And adapt planning data, yes. I can choose, I like to have, and I can choose also regenerative planning. So I define all the information, okay? And I'll choose check. You go ahead. That means that everything is good. And I click on schedule. Refresh application job list. To check the job status, enter MRP for FG012 in the search box. Okay. My display is in process. The new job is created and it's displayed in the application job table when refresh. So I click on go to refresh my screen, still in process. During this time, this process evaluates stock requirement situation. This process step show you how to display the stock requirement situation for your product. So requirement planning is carried out for the raw material. So for access the app, monitor material coverage, net individual segment. So monitor material coverage, net individual segment. The monitor material coverage screen display. Select material. In the field material, enter all your materials. Finish, semi-finish, raw material. So I copy past like this. Where is my screen? That's like this, like this, like this, and I want to be sure that I've got all one. Okay, I put the material, enter. Okay, in Excel fine. It's not like this. There is some space like this. Okay. Okay, I put the material, enter. Stock availability situation of all materials will be displayed. Review stock availability. Analyze the stock availability situation of materials. Stock availability situation of material is not with the data present under first source shortage quantity, shortage duration, working days, and stock availability. Selection of material. Use the checkbox and select the rows which have the material number. Perhaps I limited, adapter filter, for example, I just want for the plant. I select plant, I add it, and only for the plant. Okay, control. So I select and I would like to analyze and click on manage material. The material and material detail subscreen display. Stock requirement list for all the selected material display. From the list on the material subscreen on your left, select the material for which you want to check for the plain order. Material FJ0112. Like this. Okay, I put in a full screen. On the material detail subscreen, choose plain order in the MRP element column. You can choose the earliest plain order. So, plain order, like this. The selected plain order detail are displayed on pop-up screen. The plain order is generated only when there is a shortage for this material. If you want to display more information on the plain order, choose Open Plain Order at the bottom right of the dialog box. So I can choose there, change or display plain order like this. Wait. Okay, display the information. I display also the component. That's exactly the right information. Okay. So from display purchase requisition, right now from the list of the material subscreen on your left, select, for example, the material for which you want to check for the purchase requisition. For example, material RM016. Okay, you see the dependent requirement generated from the plain order and for the finished product or semi-finished product that is generated. So let's see if I click on my dependent requirement, I will see that the dependent requirement is dependent of the plain order 84854. Okay, it's very simple, isn't it? And see, and the most important, display the purchasing requisition. So on the material details subscreen, choose Purchase Requisition XXX in the MRP element column. You can choose the earliest purchase requisition. The boom explosion during the MRP run has generated dependent requirement for the demand-driven plain component. If there is no enough inventory to fulfill the requirement, purchase requisition are created for externally procured material. The purchase requisition detail are displayed on pop-up screen. The purchase requisition is generated only when there is shortage for this material. Okay. So I display the information, purchasing, all the information. Okay. I've got purchase requisition because I've got shortage there. Red, generate purchase requisition. I have the same thing for all the components with external procurement, but it's not the same things for the material, the semi-finished product, this one. So we have a dependent requirement, but this semi-finish is internal produce. So I say the same thing that the finished product. I've got a plain order for the material procured external procurement. We have a purchasing requisition generated by a short H, and we have the same things for the semi-finish, but in the case for the semi-finished product, as we have in-house, so we have a plain order again, shortage, plain order, or purchasing requisition. We have a dependent requirement that is coming from the plain order. So we have a plain order, the bill of material is explored, and we have dependent requirement on all the first level of the bill of material. I've got external procurement, good. I've purchase requisition. I have in-house production, okay. I've got a plain order. So if we have a look, we have main information in MRP element, stock, dependent requirement, plain order. Okay? That sounds to be good. So right now, procurement of raw material. We are in a real life. We have production to realize. So what we have to do, convert purchase requisition to purchase order. That you perform this activity when you want to convert a signed purchase requisition to purchase order. So access app, open, process, purchase requisition. But you can also schedule automatically if you prefer to have automatic conversion of purchase requisition to purchase order. Everything is possible. It depends if you have defined automatically purchase order in your product, in your business partner. You have a source list with only one supplier. Okay. I will show you another video. I make a lot of video to improve your knowledge in the SAP Public Cloud solution. So I check of process purchase requisition. Process purchase requisition. Okay. A list of requisition is displayed. So I can go. Just wait. Yep. I will select only that the purchase requisition that is not edited to avoid to display a lot of. So I will restrict only for the raw material. It's very simple. As we are in the demonstration system, we just have a check that all the material that start with RM for raw material. So I check. So you have different purchase requisition number at limit, because I have 352 purchase requisition. I enter also, I would like to add adapt filter. And I will add material ID. Okay. I put the material ID and I click on enter and I click on go. Okay, and I display 24 purchase requisition to convert. So I would like to test all the time. Enter your query usage. So if I put that like this, if they just want, okay, purchasing document activity filter. I looking for display. So display purchasing requisition for project for materials. So, okay, you could proceed like this. You're looking for with SAP Business EI has filters, and like when you use the Copilot, Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude, you have this option right now with the EI. Okay. I can, for example, review the display. For example, I click on settings. I would like to display group by, for example, vendor, fixed vendor. Okay. So like this, I see automatically the empty values and the purchase requisition with okay. So if I have a look, I don't have anything that is with a fixed supplier. So the first things I have to do, I'm going to check if I've created some purchasing info records. So I have a look, purchasing info, info records. I will to show you both case purchasing change records. Mass change, no, manage. We can use also source list. Source list. So I just want to display all the case which we are. So perhaps we have forgotten to generate source list. In this procedure, you maintain the purchasing info record. The contract has the source. Okay, we manage source list. So I'm just waiting. It's weird that it takes a long time. So we have maintain, change, analyze, source list, generate source list, manage source list. We manage source list. So I check for the materials. I click on go. Okay, I see anything. Okay, I can create manually one by one, but I can also go back and just wait. It's taking a long time, I don't know. Generate source list. I put, okay, I enter, I put all my material and I ask to SAP to generate all record for material and plant. Okay, I define for this up to, for example, the end of the years only. I check that the MRP indicator, for example, creation of purchase requisition allowed. Okay. Add planned delivery time, and for example, I tick test to run, and I execute. Okay, the system display only one for material RM016. So previously we have seen that no fixed vendor has been assigned to a purchase requisition. So I select, I fix, and I say, okay, source list record generated. If I go back, wait. Okay, allez, go. Okay, manage source list. I put my material, I click on enter. Okay, right now I see that I've got a source list for RM016, but I do not see anything for the other material for the 21 and the 15. So I'm going to show you create a purchase contract for the other material. Okay. So for that, choose manage purchase contract. Okay, manage purchase contract. The manage purchase contract screen display. On the screen, manage purchase contract. Choose, create, and make the following entries. Okay, create. Choose contract type MK for quantity contract. So we go in the header information, quantity contract MK, and we put a supplier, 10. I can choose, for example, I check if I've got, for example, in Italian supplier. So region, city, country, for example, IT. Okay, nothing. España. Perhaps it's Spain, SP. So we have French, UK. It's nothing. So we only have first for Dutchland. Okay, I choose this one. For demonstration, the end right now. So contract type, your supplier, purchasing organization, valid from, valid to, target value. As the quantity contract is just for example, I would put them later. So it's not mandatory. So up to the end of the years, okay. And the most important, I go to the, I change it, I choose only one. Okay. Okay, I go to the item. Material, your material, the net price and the target quantity. Okay, I've got two material to add. So the first one, okay, like this, okay, and the second one, okay, like I put in a big quantity, and so what is it? There is an issue. That's weird. Yeah, it's space like this. Okay. I define also a quantity, and I defined so price. Okay. So, okay, and for the plant, I just want this contract for the plant. Okay, I've got a warning message. Okay, so I can review, for example, it's 8 paces. I'll show you quantity and price. I define the 8 euro for 1 kilo, but I can define, for example, for 100 kilo, like this. Item category not allowed for document item. Item, weird. So I keep it. Okay, I don't know. So item category, but my item category is okay, I define my materials. Yeah, sorry, standard. I go inside and I change the quantity and the price, release, price unit, so quantity conversion. So it's a 8 euro, for example, for 100 kilo. Okay, I click on apply. And I can do it the same things for the price of my second material. I can also add some, for example, if I go to quantity and price in condition, in my condition, I can add, you can see clear. You have all the condition types you can manage, okay? So for example, I can define for like this, and I can add that we have, for example, fixed amount of freight, for example, €1 per kilo. Okay. And I think it's enough, and I can create my contract. Okay, I've got a purchasing info record for one raw material and a contract for the order. So right now I can go back and generate source list, and I regenerate the source list for my material. Okay, for my plant 10, for old, I had that defined, as I know exactly that I've only one per article that is in MRP. That's and also years 2026. I delete previous, had not a test run, and I execute. It's not good. Okay, I display right now. I select, I fix, I select, I save. Okay, if I go right now and manage source list, okay, like this. For plant 10, for all my material, enter, I click on go. Okay, I display that I've got 2 agreements and 1 purchasing info record. So what can I do right now? For example, schedule MRP run, schedule MRP run. So I FG012. Okay, I take, I make a copy to re-execute. So run. Okay, step 2, single run, step 3, and I schedule. Okay. Right now, I go back in and record recent activities. Directly, I can choose process purchase requisition. So if I click on go, perhaps we need just to wait that the system generates a new purchasing info record. Read, just have to wait a little bit. So I go back in recent activities, schedule MRP run. So the log, regenerative planning mode, BOM, included stock transfer. Okay, can I have information about the result? So information, MRP live on S/4HANA. Okay. So recent activity, process purchase requisition. So if I have a look about, I would just have to check why if I display. Okay, I see. Why system? So we have the delivery date in April. Okay. I just have a look inside quick edit. I just want to display the information about my purchase requisition, more links. Purchase requisition. Display purchase requisition. So we have delivery date in April. So I just want to check that is really important That's the request. The release date is this. And why? So schedule. I don't know. Schedule. MRP. Run. So like this. Copy. Okay. So step 2. Start immediately. And in the options, scope, define at least one selection material. Change. Boom. Okay, regenerative planning, determination of basic, and I don't want to adapt. I want to delete and recreate data and schedule. Yes. So I ask to SAP to delete all the purchase requisitions. So if I go back in recent activity, process purchase requisition, okay, I go back in schedule. No, I think schedule MRP this case. Okay, wait. I don't know what's happened. I do not see. So we can do, okay, I show you also how we can do sent activity. You can do it also in manage material coverage. So I would like to display, sorry, manage, no, coverage, coverage, material, that's individual segment. So I select all my material like this. Okay, adapt the filter, plant, only for the plant 10. Okay, I go inside. Just want to be sure, click on before to execute again the MRP, that my purchase requisition has no fixed folder. So if I have a look right now, internal, and you have the information not yet specified, supplier not yet specified. So, okay, I go. You have to select all your material. You check app settings. You check on the MRP run parameter, change boom. So it's not required for all material in the scope. Save setting. Okay. And then I click on start MRP run. It's a MRP live. Okay. So I go back because I want to sure I manage source list. I just want to be sure that all the material have got the indicator MRP run, but I remember I've selected it for materials, but a double check is always sure. So I go inside, I display the detail. So that is this important record relevant to MRP. Okay, run. Okay, be careful. Valid from. So remember, that means your purchase requisition have a release date before the beginning of the source list. So that is excluded. That means, okay, we have something to change. So if I display, if I go, for example, yes, but process. So recent activity, monitor Okay, if I display again manage material, I will see that the order purchase requisition is assigned. I see the information. So for this one, right now, tireless. Okay, good. I go back. I select all my line, manage material. Sometimes there is different case of explanation, in particular when you have a gap between the purchase requisition release date and the information. So right now it's tireless. That is good because it's in a field. That is for the RM. I check also that the dependent in the purchasing requisition of the supplier, and I check also for RM 2021. I've got all the information. So be careful when you define the parameters. Good. So right now I'm able to check recent activity, process, purchase, requisition. So convert. Okay. Right now, go. So the system right now update automatically. I see that the fixed vendor, but I can also prefer to group. It's not fixed vendor description of desired. For example, desired supplier. There's a desired supplier name, for example. I will try with that. Yes, I mean to have the if you select a group, you need to have the desired supplier name like this. That is the difference between the fixed vendor and the desired. Okay. So I don't think I've got in the fixed. I just have I've got yeah, I've got fixed vendor. Okay, fixed supplier. Okay, and the group, I'm not sure that I've got a fixed supplier. I just have, yeah, yes, fixed supplier name, like this. Why I do that? Because like this, I will select for all the, like this, you can see you cannot create. I select, for example, all the purchase requisition for the lean perfect. So like this, like this, like this, like this, like this, like this. So if you prefer, in this case, display purchase requisition, for example, for supplier 1000 175. Yeah, so desired supplier. Now for fixed, for fixed, I change it. So automatically, fixed vendor, material ID. So I just have to do like this. Okay, see, with the, it's perfect with this filter. So, and then I click on create purchase order. So select the purchase requisition and choose create purchase order. In the new purchase order screen, make the following entries. Check that you have by default standard PO and choose order. A new purchase order will be created. So the system calls automatically, you see, manage purchase order, which is have to wait and go back and proceed for the order, which is have to wait that system update. We are in the standard purchase order. We have 8 items with the information and just have to click on order and automatically a new purchase order number will be generated and my purchase order Okay, I've got my purchase order and I sent all the information. So in first, we will receive the item 10, for example. We display the purchase order and so on. Yes. If you have defined in inbound delivery to receive the purchase order, you can it, but you can do directly the post good receipt. For example, I try to do the post good receipt for the item 10. For that, post goods receipt, post good receipt for purchasing document. I put the purchase order. Okay, the system display all the information, but I select only the item 10 that I want to receive. I've got also the information about the storage location. I can receive in MM or DWM, so that's a raw material storage location. And I just have to click on post. No good receipt for, okay. For example, the item does not exist, or perhaps as I'm not confirmed my purchase order. So for that, I go in confirm, chase, confirmation. Sure. Confirmation. I'm sure that is a. So I have in a app finder. That is a confirm purchase. I'm sure that is a confirm purchase. Perhaps confirm purchase or purchase. Confirm purchase order. I'm sure that is a confirm purchase order. No, perhaps it's in a business suite. Order acknowledge. Perhaps, yeah. Manage supplier confirmation. Manage supplier confirmation, yeah. Oh, I just have to wait. Manage supplier confirmation, yeah. So manage supplier confirmation. Manage, yeah. Manage supplier confirmation. So as we have defined as key control confirmation key in the purchasing info record for the item 10, there is only two options. That is a lean manufacturing. Two options. I try to check what will be the issue. Two options. Confirmation key. Confirmation key I check for the purchase order. So I check. And that is my purchase order. I click on go. I suppose I see nothing. If I click on just wait. Okay. We create. I put the reference purchase order. Okay. Lean perfect. Okay. And I click on quick create. Perhaps I need to create an inbound delivery for this. So the system display, okay. Confirmation. And confirmation item. I confirm the item 10. Confirm item as ordered. Yeah. Line are created from schedule. So if I go to the confirmation item, okay, if I display all the information, so if you go inside to display the detail of the confirmation from the supplier, confirmation item, confirmation line versus confirmation schedule. But you can, for example, I for today. And I click on apply. Yes. And I click on create. Okay, I save. Then if I want to display the purchase order, I can use manage purchase order, but I can use the advanced purchase order. Just to show you all the detail that you have in the public cloud. So I put my purchase order, I click on enter, and I show you that we have this information available in confirmation part, and I display confirmation. So with the confirmation key, we need to have two things. Can have a confirmation, but can have inbound delivery. So for that, we need to create an inbound delivery. So to create an inbound delivery, very simple. You can create manually inbound delivery for purchase order that you generate an inbound delivery in background. So you can also create in foreground. So everybody knows create inbound delivery. Okay, I put my purchase order. I put the external ID that is the information from supplier. Today, enter. So I select all the item. I just need the item. Then I remove the other one. Yeah. I check the information. Okay. And the most important, to put away quantity. The put away quantity is 46. I save. Right now, two options. I can use fast, good, received for inbound delivery. We can create a handling unit if we use WM, but we can use change. That depends if you are in AWM and or MM reception. So lean perfect. So I select my inbound delivery. Okay, confirm. Then individual slip. I select my line and I click on post. So it's one part of the process of produce and sell standard product. So like this, you do it all the time. You have this mechanic. You have a plain order, you have a plain independent requirement, you have an MRP, you have a finished product, semi-finished product, raw material. The raw materials are external procurement, so you have a purchase requisition that you have to convert, but before you need to have a contract, scheduling agreement, or contract agreement, or purchasing info record, or you manage quota. You have source list, but you don't forget you have routing, you have also bill of material, you have also production version. So when you execute all these things, is very simple. SAP is very simple. It depends if you manage correctly all the time. The master data is your pillar of your system. If you know everything about the master data, you are able to make all the process easily. Again, it's easily. Plain order, dependent requirement, purchase requisition, purchase order, inbound delivery, receipt in the material certification environment. So again, see you later for the next, and we continue this process. Amazing process about produce and sell standard products. Thank you so much.